Hey, this is Preston, and I am the director of the direct marketing division here at Federal Financial Group. And I'm excited to go through this manager webinar with you. It's taken a year and a half to get this division where it's at. We've gone through a lot of trial and error. It stood the test of time, and through the help of two great mentors, the president CEO of the company and Brent Tixon, the VP of the company, we've put together a new business method, a marketing model that is just phenomenal. And the company wants us to expand this division throughout the whole company. We're creating an appointment for financial planners that are have been proven to be more effective than the telemarketing appointments at the same cost. And so this is really exciting. So put on your seatbelt, get fastened in, because we're going to go through some exciting material here. So how much does an average manager make? Well, if you work 6 hours a day, 5 days a week, how much would you make if you only averaged one per hour? 6 hours a day, 5 days a week. That's 30 appointments. A manager makes $25 per appointment. $25 times 30 appointments is $750. Well, you probably notice about 5% of your appointments get returned. So out of those 30 appointments, if you do the math, a 5% decrease will land you somewhere around 2 appointments that would get returned, since 5% is a company average that gets returned. To be realistic, let's say you get paid on 28 appointments. Well, 28 appointments times 25 bucks, $700. So let's talk about OR overrides. For example, if your team is doing 150 appointments a week, well, you'd probably need you plus 5 or 6 guys, depending on the talent you have on your team and how many hours they can work. Oh, and by the way, the company has a recruiting division that recruits through universities, being that we've set up an internship program, as well as through Craigslist and many other avenues. And we will recruit the guys for you. Once you've proved yourself that you can train others and you're into this management role, the exciting thing is you have literally zero overhead. We pay for all the recruiting, all the ads. It's just really exciting, the opportunity that managers really have to come in this and make some really good income. So if you do 30 appointments, that leaves 114 appointments your team would need to pick up. So out of those 150 appointments, you're doing 30 minus returns. Your team's doing 114 to hit the 150 mark. So what would an override look like on a team that produced 114 appointments in a week? Well, first off, we know that out of those 114 appointments, 5% get returned. So that leaves approximately 6 appointments that you would not make an override on. The good news is that as a manager, you make $8 on every appointment produced on your team. So you make 8 times 108 appointments. That's $864. Total weekly check is about $1,500 if you're doing 150 appointments a week, and you're doing 30 of those on your own. So how much do you make per hour in that scenario? Well, you knock 30 hours, and my guess is you probably took about 10 hours a week to do basic preparations and trainings, etc. So you really worked 40 hours, maybe more. It's a full-time job. But if you take 1564 over 40 hours, that's 39 bucks an hour. It's almost $40 an hour as a manager. Guys, and that was just the beginning. Let's talk about ESBI. This is taken from a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Maybe you've read this. He talks about ESBI. If you're working in America, you fall into one of these quadrants. Either you're an employee, self-employed, you're a business owner, or you're an investor. The interesting thing on the left side of the quadrant, if you're in the E quadrant, your asset's time. You trade your time for dollars. If you want to make more money, what do you got to do? That's right, work more. Self-employed, these are your contractors, doctors, lawyers, chiropractors. They also trade their time for dollars. If you're a chiropractor and you don't show up to work, you don't make money. If you're a doctor and you don't show up and see your patients, you're not making any money. So you're still in that side of the quadrant. Now let's talk about business owners. To jump into the right side of the quadrant, that requires having a system or creating a passive income. Now, before I talk about that, I want to point out two very important things here. On the left side of the quadrant, in the E and the S side, it says this side of the quadrant makes up 95% of the working class in America. 95% of everyone working here they're either in the E or the S quadrant. The interesting thing as well is this side of the quadrant controls 5% of the country's wealth. Interesting. On the right side of the quadrant, you have your business owners and your investors. Now, this side of the quadrant makes up 5% of the working class of America. Interesting part, this side of the quadrant also controls 95% of the wealth. Average income of a business owner, $105,000 a year, according to the Small Business Index. Guys, it's when I first saw this is really what got me thinking, man, I at the time I was an agent at Federal Financial Group, and I knew a lot of agents that were in their 60s and still working. And interesting thing is, they're making good money, but if they don't show up to work, they're not making money. And in learning from the mentors in my life and reading books of guys who have really developed a sense of financial security, I've really attached myself to the philosophy of wanting to learn this and wanting to apply this in my own life. And this is why I stepped back and I took the risk to start this division. Ryan and I basically worked on pennies, very small income, because we had a goal and a dream to get this division expanded throughout this whole company. And we've put together a plan and an approach to bring guys on as managers and work with them as a team to help do this. And we've put together a program where all the managers can become a part of the business owner side of the quadrant to develop a passive income. And we'll talk about that here shortly. Let's talk about Federal Financial Group and their history. In 2003, they had 2 regions, one in Salt Lake, one in Phoenix. Those were the first 2. Commissions paid almost $1 million. Recruits 68 that year. And in 2006, paid out $6 million. In 3 years, they grew 6 times. Region 17, recruits 777. In 2009, 2011, 2012, it compounded and grew. Let's talk about 2013. Now, Federal Financial Group has 71 regions. Our direct marketing division is only in 4 of those regions, and we will expand this division into all 71 regions. What that means is there is no better time for someone to work hard with us and step up into management. There truly is no limit to this opportunity. Let's talk about it. Whip out a pen and paper. When a manager spins out someone to start their own office, you make $1 off every appointment in their region. So let's say you're in your own region, you're a manager, you have a guy who's setting 30 to 40 appointments a week. He's a stud. He's got great communication skills. He sees that you're making good money. You sit down, you show him this webinar, and you help him develop leadership skills. You give him a guy or 2 to train. The guy's completed all the fulfillments to be a manager, and he goes and starts his own office. You make $1 override off every appointment in that region. So if, let's say that guy goes and opens up Houston, Texas. Well, because you promoted a manager out to Houston, Texas, that just promoted you to an area manager. Now you're overriding Houston, Texas. That is your area. Because you promoted him out to that area, you will override that area as long as you're with Federal Financial Group. Now let's say this gentleman decided to quit for some odd reason. He's no longer a manager there. He has a team. You promote someone else to a manager. You're still overriding that area. If that guy leaves someone else in charge of that and he wants to go start another office so he can override that office, that's okay. You'll override that office still. If you promote someone out into a region, you override that region. And so it's really exciting. And we'll go into some details with that in just a second. But also known as creating a passive income. You're managing your office, but you got another guy now managing a region. You're overriding that region. We'll talk about, like I said, in just a second. Which also means you are in the B quadrant. You're now a business owner. You are overriding that region, which is creating a passive income. So you've created a system that generates money if you're not there. That's pretty exciting. So what would it take to create a six-figure passive business. Well, make this a 5-year plan. Spin 4 guys out per year, 1 per quarter. Make that your goal. That's 20 over 5 years. If an average office was doing only 100 appointments per week, that would be 2,000 appointments per week, which means you are making $104,000 per year passively. But keep this in mind. If you're making roughly $80,000 a year in your own office doing 150 appointments a week, what happens when they bring on a few more advisors and now they can handle 200 appointments a week? How much are you making then? Let's talk about this real quick. When me and Ryan first started in Salt Lake, they could only handle roughly 80 appointments. As we were able to continue to set 80 appointments, they brought on more advisors. Then as we were continuing to hit more appointments, they brought more advisors on. And the telemarketing company at the time was setting appointments, and they still are a little bit in Salt Lake. But now Salt Lake can handle 260 appointments. And our region, Salt Lake's doing 150 right now. But Dan's really working harder to bring on more recruits right now. Hopefully within the next few months, he's now doing 250 appointments roughly in Salt Lake. And that's about where we'll cap it because of market saturation purposes. That's what is written right there. We cap an office at 250 appointments because of market saturation purposes. We don't hit an area but every maybe 3 to 6 months. And the way we've done the math is for the entire Salt Lake Valley is we don't want to oversaturate it. And depending on what region you're going, if you're in Texas or in a metropolitan area that's a lot bigger than Salt Lake, maybe that office can handle more. But average office, probably about 250 is about where we'll cap it. This is what an office would look like that is doing 250 appointments a week. You're setting 30 appointments, so that leaves 220 for your team to pick up. The average production is 20 appointments per guy in an office. Some will be setting 25, some 15. We found the average guy in an office is doing about 20 appointments. 220 appointments will require you to have roughly 11 guys on your team, depending on the talent of your team. Then you'll be paying an assistant manager $18 an appointment, so you will only be overriding them $5. So about what would it look like? You're setting 30 appointments, so you're making $700, including returns. You're overriding your assistant manager, $5 times 19 appointments, including returns, so that would be $95. Then you'd be overriding 190 appointments, including returns, so that would be $1,520 you're making on your team. So your grand total will be $2,315. In conclusion, you have an opportunity to make a six-figure income as little as 18 months. Say it takes 2 or 3 years. Is it still worth it? But you don't want to knock doors forever, do you? Become a leader and teach others how to fish. And become an area manager where you're managing managers. And at that point, you really can work where you want, how you want, and for how long you want. And have true financial security. Say, what happens when your 20 regions are averaging 200 appointments per week? You do the math. We are here to help you do it. Welcome to Federal Financial Group.